Thank you, folks, for allowing everybody to be here and speak. This can't be easy for you. I can assure you it's not easy for most people. I first became aware of gas exploration in this area a few years ago. Frighteningly, watching a Planet Green episode. After an hour, it's summed up by a satellite photo of the world coming down to the United States, New York, the southern tier, and then a town right next to where we lived. And this, the target of the world. I became aware of this project less than 2 weeks ago, sitting at dinner, the evening before your scoping meeting. I turned to my wife, I said, you're not going to believe this. For 2 years, we looked for a home and did settle to be within an area that we knew was somewhat of a target. But this was posed for 200 feet behind our home. And I started to research. But nothing, no amount of time, especially 2 weeks, allows you to get into the depth necessary. And I question how you can possibly, even over the course of a year, address every comment, every personal feeling, socioeconomical, environmental, civil. I would first ask that FERC allow for an additional meeting. The people in Oneonta, very close to me, everyone I've talked to, adjacent landowners, that's a few people directly next to me, they're unaware of this. Whether they didn't receive the information, whether the information wasn't sent, I'm sure it was sent, but mine was plain envelope. Something like this, in my opinion, should be sent to people certified return receipt. So they're aware of such a monumental project. This isn't a small thing. That's a small consideration. I reside with my family and wife 1,500 feet west of mile marker 72, town of Oneonta, proposed Constitution Pipeline project. With my family of four and many pets on 65 acres at the base of Franklin Mountain. Our property is 800 feet wide by a mile deep. 75% of our property incorporates what you would expect of a mountain, an off-camber grade of 35% or greater. The other 25% incorporates our home, the only rolling terrain, the only traversable terrain. This pipeline is proposed to go directly through the middle of this. Our property includes a ravine in the easterly border in this portion. This land has a history of flooding, as evidenced by Oneonta's flood event during the spring of 2011, the closed Route 28. This ravine is nearly 20 to 25 feet deep and 30 to 40 feet deep, or 30 to 40 feet wide, and would need to be crossed to make the proposed route possible. Further, the proposed study corridor is mapped by the information received from Constitution Pipeline, is the only tillable and rolling terrain in our 65-acre property. It's home to our poultry, livestock, and gardens that support our business. We operate a wholesale organic food company and manufacture certified organic products that are distributed nationally. We also have financial commitments in place to open a retail organic bakery and cafe in Oneonta. We've only lived in our home for a year this past June. I haven't even had an opportunity to use this land. We've invested substantially in its purchase and infrastructure to support our business. We steadfastly oppose the construction of the Constitution Pipeline. The proposed Route M study corridor would squeeze between our home and Franklin Mountain and be 200 feet from our back door. Our concerns include the safety of the pipeline's operation, the maintenance of the proposed pipeline and surrounding area. From my calculations, And those gathered, I can only fear that our home and our family are within a direct impact and likely a radiation zone in the event of a catastrophe. I had a friend who won the $20 million lottery last year. I'm also concerned regarding the effects in soil and water contamination. The herbicides used to keep the 50-foot right-of-way accessible are just one of the negative direct impacts of our land. The contamination of our water and soil directly impacts the organic certification necessary to keep our livelihood and business forthgoing. We cannot at this time fully comprehend the environmental or financial impact that this proposal will have on our land, animals, family, and business. We, as many as others, are asking for a full environmental impact in addition to a required setback, at least 1,000, 2,000, whatever's required. At this time, I understand there's no setback requirements for pipeline installation. Secondly, the flooding on that mountain, as well as every other mountain along the 120-mile corridor, the possible effects of that flooding condition on this pipe, each I'm sure is specific, but each should be studied specifically and in full depth. There's so many issues. I was at last night's meeting, and the second person spoke, and I was stupefied. I was dumbfounded, and I felt completely ignorant to what was going on. In this case, you know, I'm one of someone who was informed less than 2 weeks ago, and I feel like I represent everybody who's either not been informed or just recently informed, because I feel like I'm so ill prepared for this meeting, or to properly absorb what's going on here. From an insurance standpoint, you know, I understand, you know, we've heard what's going on. These people should have to pay for our insurance. We shouldn't be in a position where we're going to lose our insurance. This is a for-profit operation. To think that we could possibly have our insurance canceled, we're going to have to make any adjustments whatsoever. I can't believe that they shouldn't be required to pay for our homeowners insurance and any changes that affect that policy based on this project and the infiltration, the discomfort we're feeling. On a compensation basis, this one is really crazy. An $8 million project proposes possibly $5 a foot to affected landowners, $26,000 a mile. A total expenditure of less than 0.5% to occupy our dreams, hopes, futures, retirements, our playgrounds for our children, forests, streams, and the list goes on. This essentially puts us in the business of natural gas supply. We don't want to be in this business. This isn't something we're asking for. We don't want it. But by doing it, the potential to receive a compensation less than what our taxes are on that parcel per year. That's what we can expect. No royalty. Additionally, we get the advantage of vicarious liability associated with that pipe. From the day of its installation, in perpetuity, when it's abandoned. A gentleman made a very good point last night about, you know, these pipes can you know, whatever the lifespan is, if it's 30 years. After that, you know, a rusting pipe that collects water, next thing you know, that's leaking down my ravine into the Susquehanna River. Where does that leave me? I'll probably be gone, but where does that leave my children or the next property owner? They should need to be responsible for this pipeline from the day of its installation. We should be excluded from any kind of vicarious liability whatsoever. We're not in the business. We don't know what to do with this thing in the event of a problem. Why are we going to be left with this thing 30 years later? I think it's the obligation of FERC. I understand that this is an environmental impact meeting, but, you know, this has to be taken under consideration. Upon abandonment, a catastrophe with this pipe could throw someone into bankruptcy. There's no way to deal with it from my standpoint. And what precludes them? Why should they be excused from that? If I lose my organic certification, I'm out of business. If this pipe fails 30 years from now on my property, there is nothing that precludes them, there's nothing that includes them in that process. We should not be responsible for this pipeline from the day of its installation until it's decommissioned, fully decommissioned, removed, and considered remediated from our properties. The stewardship that we're expected to provide for their pipeline, their for-profit pipeline, should exclude us from liability vicariously in any way. And we should be properly compensated if it happens. Land values, whole other story. Everybody's specific. I value my land differently. We have to apply for National Historic Register. Does that mean anything when the pipeline comes through? No, that doesn't mean a thing. I beg the panel and anybody above you, obviously you're going to write a report this visit to our part of the world. I beg you to aggressively seek an alternative to this entire process. If the Tennessee, or if any other pipeline is decayed to the point it can't be used, that should be decommissioned, excavated, and if that land is suitable to be reused, it should be reused. We're the organic business. A lot of people are around here. It's an aggressive industry. It's a growth industry. It's, you know, one of the few industries that even grew through this recessionary period, other than the natural gas industry. But people in this part of the world care about that. We care about sustainable living. We grow our own food. We raise our own livestock. We value our land. We seek ways to heat our homes with something other than natural gas. Myself included, I burn wood. That's a tough project, split 8, 10 cords of wood a year. But I enjoy it, and I want to keep doing it. I respect the gentleman who quoted Schoharie County's picture-perfect slogan. The slogan is life enjoyed. And we don't want to see it life destroyed. Thank you.